Hello, I'm Ron Cooper, and I want to tell you a story about how I became Santa Ron Cooper. Like all good stories, it begins with once upon a time. Once upon a time, I was in a post office getting some stamps, and there was a gentleman ahead of me in line, and he had a long white beard. And I couldn't help but comment, "That's a wonderful looking beard. You would make a great Santa Claus." And he kind of turned to me, a little bit surprised, kind of tried to hush me up. He looked all around, came close to me, he goes, "As a matter of fact, I do portray Santa during December." He went ahead and told me his whole story about all the adventures of being Santa Claus. I thought it was very interesting. And then he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "You know, you would make a good Santa Claus." I couldn't help but laugh and thinking, well, I have the belly for it, but I don't have the beard. He looked at me again, close to my eyes. He said, "It's not about the way you look. It's what's in your heart that counts. And I think you have the heart and the personality to be a good Santa Claus." I kind of laughed again and thought about it. When I got home, I got a call from my daughter in New York City. And she was telling me about her day and things she'd been doing with her children, our grandchildren. And I had to interject the story about my encounter at the post office. And I thought she'd laugh along too. I think it was really very funny. But she said, "You know, Dad, you would make a good Santa Claus. You do have the personality for it." And I kind of laughed again, like shook my head to myself. Oh no, that couldn't happen. But then she said, "Why don't you grow your beard out for next Christmas? And we could have photos with the grandchildren. They would love it." And I thought about it. Well, it is my daughter, my little girl. Even though she's older and has her own children herself, she's still just my little girl. And I thought, I can't let her down. So I thought it over and I thought, you know, maybe I will grow my beard out. Even Mrs. Claus, now she's my Mrs. Claus, but it was my wife, said, "You know, you would do a good job on that." So I let my beard grow, and about December, I thought, yeah, it's beginning to look pretty good. I bought myself a very inexpensive Santa suit. We went out to New York to visit our grandkids. We had pictures made, a family portrait, and I was Santa Claus. Had a wonderful time. And a lot of the kids that were there, having their pictures made, came over and looked at me like it was Santa Claus and started talking to me just like it was Santa Claus. And I almost began to believe that I really was kind of Santa Claus. My wife and I, after we were leaving there, we went down to Walt Disney World. And we were walking around, and we had a great time and had a great afternoon. And I was just wearing my regular clothes, but I still had my beard. And I was surprised how many kids came up and said hello to me and started talking about Christmas and things that they wanted. Suddenly I realized I was getting almost as much attention as Mickey Mouse himself. So anyway, I was beginning to take this all in and really getting the hang of it. So then toward the end of the afternoon, I saw a little girl standing not too far away. She had kind of big wide eyes and she kept looking at me, but she was very shy. And finally I thought, I'm getting the hang of this. And I said to her, "Oh, would you like to tell Santa what you want for Christmas?" And she nodded. Real shyly, she came over a little bit closer. She looked right in my eyes. Her big brown eyes looked right up at me. And she said, "Santa, I just want one more Christmas with my grandma. She's really very sick." It completely caught me off guard. I stood there for a minute with my mouth open. I didn't know quite what to say. And all of a sudden the words came to me. And I kind of kneeled down very close to her. And I said, "Santa will take and pray for your grandmother, that you will have many, many more Christmases with her." And the little girl looked at me, came and gave me a big hug, and smiled and ran off to join her family in the crowd. I kind of stood up and I looked at my wife, and I said, "You know, this job has a lot more responsibility than I ever thought." And I thought it's a lot more than just making kids happy with toys and talk about reindeer and sleighs and all these other special things. It's really about giving children some hope. So I turned to my wife and I said, "I'm going to keep this beard, and I'm going to take and do my best to take and portray Santa Claus." So that's the story of how I became Santa Claus. And the important thing now is that I like to take and perform for as many children as I can and give them hope with everything I say. And I hope that in the coming years I'll have a chance to be your Santa Claus.